All right, we're going to talk for the next 8 or 10 minutes about call tracking and why you should do it. You're a small business. I'm going to just start out with this page. What I was going to start out doing, though, is how to build your own no code call tracking system. And if we get into this, we'll come down through and talk about this in a minute. But I have been doing small business marketing now since before there was a Google. And I insist, I do pay per click advertising for my clients, and I will not take on a pay per click customer at any price. Well, I would at any price, but I'm going to lose them if I don't do this, if I don't track every call. And I don't understand why every business doesn't track, every service contractor doesn't track every call that comes into their business. Otherwise, how do you know what's working? I've, for decades now, watched people buy billboards. Couldn't no more tell me whether the billboard was working than the man in the moon. But you know what? It was feeding their ego. They got to drive down the road and see themselves up on a sign. More importantly, their competitors or their wives drove down the road and saw them up on a sign. I can promise you they weren't working. Especially not for a contractor under 10 people. There's just no way you can advertise effectively in that method. On the other hand, if I had a vans, I'd have a different phone number on the van than I would, and then I'd have one on business cards, a separate phone number for handing out in public. Then I would have a third one for signage that I would put out in front of someone's yard that I'm working on that day. When it's kind of, we call them bandit signs, kind of real estate signs that you throw away. Every method of advertising needs to have its own phone number so that you can track its effectiveness. If it's working, buy more, and if it's not working, turn it off. Okay, so with that in mind, let's talk about that. So this is just going to read, this is from AI. Call tracking is a valuable tool for small service businesses, especially pay per click, but you also measure the effectiveness of it assigns a unique phone number to each pay per click campaign, ad group even. I do it just down to the campaign itself. I've thought about putting one on Bing and putting a separate one on Google. But I don't think that's necessary. I just want to know in general, is the pay per click campaign working? The reason I do that, and then I started this conversation off by saying I insist on doing it, is because contractors are notorious for saying, hey, I haven't gotten any calls from you this month. And then I pull up their sheet that looks like, let's do this. Let me pull up a sheet here. So in order to retain a client for as long as I typically do, and I've got some that have been with me for more than a decade now, I prove to them over and over again that what I'm doing is working. And the only way I can do it is to say, oh, you got no phone calls? Well, let's go look at it. Here it is by the day, that many calls, by the week, by the month. Can also show them a graphic representation of the number of calls. How many, that's form fills there. Let's go back up to the phone calls. These are daily phone calls. You can see there 9 and 5. And then how many per month for the past few months. And then a little metric that I started putting on here. And I share this platform with my clients. But whether they look at it or not, I look at it and I know that calls are accelerating in the past 30 days. Yesterday and today so far are the same, but we're only at 12 o'clock. So hopefully we'll get a few more phone calls because a lot of them tend to come in late in the day. And if he wants to use this platform here, all he has to do is click on this and it'll show the calls. And then I've got some more data to be filled in on these things too, but, meaning name, address, phone number, things like that. And so then you can wind up using this platform, which we'll expound upon in another video as a CRM. But to go back to what we were talking about, if you don't know what's working, if you don't measure it, you don't know what's working. Um, you're not able to compare this year to last year. This is another reason I do this. If you go down here to look at the full year, most call tracking things only do 12 months. I do 13 months, because how else are you going to compare last April to this April? I don't understand it. Everywhere I go, I had to go through some hoops to customize this to make it pull up 13 months. The standard is 12. I've never understood that, even when I was with a company like CallRail. My biggest expense for my clients has always been call tracking, or second biggest. The biggest in the past would have been hosting, but for the past decade, call tracking has exceeded even what my hosting costs are. And so here's in Gork here, they're recommending CallRail, which I wholeheartedly recommend as well. They have some pretty good pricing on their plans. I've never used Call Metrics, and this Google Ads call tracking is a joke. Don't ever do that. Use your own call tracking number when you run your own Google Ads. So let's see how far we're into the video now. Yeah, I don't want to keep dwelling on this, but there's just so much you need to measure an effectiveness besides just the number of calls today. You need to measure the number of calls per week. You need to measure the sources of the calls. That brings up another point. So you can see in this one right here, he's getting phone calls from his Google business profile, from his pay-per-click campaign. He has another listing under that name. And then you go here, people call directly from the website. He should have, but he doesn't. He ought to have a phone number on his trucks, and I ought to be tracking it. He ought to have a phone number on business cards, and I ought to be tracking it. That sort of thing. So you can't track things enough, because it's cheap now to track something, and then you'll know whether to invest more in it. Now to the thing that kind of triggered me wanting to do this message was, I've been building. CallRail was my number one application for a decade, probably a decade. And I've probably gone through 3 different call tracking companies over the years. Then one day I sat down and decided to build my own. And because of a program, I'll show it to you, Airtable is what gave me the idea. That's what those platforms are built in over there. Let me see if I can just pull up Airtable. Airtable. It's probably, let me go to, it's probably going to go right into my account. It's not going to show you what Airtable really is. I'd have to log out of it, I guess, to see it. Anyway, look up Airtable. Y'all will be able to. It's a $20 to $45 a month platform, just for me. Now, if I wanted to invite a lot of people into it, then it does get to be more expensive. But it's more than just. It looks like a spreadsheet, and I used it as the base to build my own call tracking system. And I could have done it even with Google Sheets. Google Sheets plus Make is how I have built my own call tracking system. And Twillo. You have to get phone numbers from somewhere. And I get my phone numbers from a company called Twillo. And sometimes I get them from another company called Plivo. I'm not going to log into it right now. And so, I get those, for a couple of dollars or a piece or thereabouts, somewhere right in there. Get the Plivo ones, I think, for 75 cents a piece. But then you buy your minutes on top of that, but they're just like fractions of a penny per minute. And I do my call tracking that way. Been doing it now for, I started working on Airtable about 3 years ago. And so today I sat down and I'm wanting to do a complete makeover of the way I track calls, because there's so much new stuff coming out there about no code. And if you're not familiar with no code and you're a small businessman, at least get a rudimentary idea of what I'm talking about here. You need to know about call tracking, everything you can find out about that. But you need to find out, and you need to know about CRMs, and which is a subject for another deal, and no code. But really, my call tracking system is a CRM. So it's that, a lot of CRMs, if you use CallRail, for instance, you can send your phone call data into your CRM. But in this case, I build my CRM for my clients, or a CRM for my clients, and do the call tracking too. And so here's the basics of how you do it. If you wanted to build your own, and if you wanted to build your own, you would want to, what kind of calls are you tracking? Inbound sales, support calls. You could have that on a different line as well. I won't argue that point. But typically for a plumber, for heating and air contractor, for a home renovation contractor, you really just have one call center coming in, and one answering the phones. It's probably just one person. By the way, it got a great solution that's AI for that too now. So we'll talk again, another subject, because I'm trying to limit this down to about the next minute. I got to wrap this up. But you want to decide what kind of calls you're tracking, what kind of information you want to capture when you're doing that, and what platforms are involved. I've already told you that I use Twilio. Evidently, you can use WhatsApp and regular phone numbers. You can get your regular phone numbers, I guess is what they're talking about here, is going through Vonage or some other phone provider, where the phone would actually ring on your desk if you want it to. I've got a video elsewhere about Google Voice. I use Google Voice, but I don't use Google Voice numbers as a tracking number. I would use my tracking numbers to send it to my main Google Voice number, which is my business number. Platforms involved. Oh, I've already covered that. You want to see the data. Do you want to see it in Google Sheets? I love Airtable. I can't get over it. I think it's the greatest $20 I ever spend every month. I use it to run all of my business for all of my contractors. This is a personal project. This is for a small business, so it's kind of going to give me an idea of what the budget would be. So I'm just going to ask her, and then I'm going to wrap this up right now, because we're really running out of time. But you really need to trust yourself and stop trusting yourself to remember all this stuff and start doing call tracking. You can build your own, or you can buy one from CallRail. I make nothing off of CallRail. Hope that helps. And